Hey, so you should be open to solving quadratic equations by graphing in your notes. It's the last page in this notes packet, and again, that's because I'm not sure how the timeline that I have set is going to really happen with spring break coming up. Um, so we're going to be doing the same thing as the previous page of notes. We're going to be graphing quadratics, but uh, this time they're going to help us solve my equation. So, but in our last chapter we did polynomials where we had to factor stuff and then solve it. Here, graphing can help us solve it. Now you can choose to graph it using like a t-chart like we did early in the notes before, or you could figure out your axis of symmetry, vertex, and line intercept. So I prefer just figuring out all of these things rather than a t-chart, because a t-chart I think is easier to mess up. So to find your axis of symmetry, remember it's x equals negative b over 2a. So here my a is 1. My b is actually 0 because there's no term with just a plain x, and my c is negative 1. So I get x equals negative b, so negative 0 is just 0. 2 times a, which is 1, so 0 over 2 is 0. So my axis of symmetry is at x equals 0, so I have a dotted line going down the center. And again, that just tells me where my line of symmetry is. To find the vertex, you take x equals 0, since that's what we just got in the previous part, and plug it in. So 0 squared minus 1. Well, 0 squared is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. So I'm looking at 0, negative 1. So make a dot at 0, negative 1. That's your vertex. Your y-intercept, remember your y-intercept is your c. Here your c is negative 1, so 0, negative 1. Oh, that's the same as my vertex, so that didn't help me out. If this happens, then just make a very small t-chart. So if you wanted to make a t-chart in the first place to avoid doing all this work and still having to make a t-chart, go ahead. If we plug in negative 1, negative 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Plug in 0, which we already did, to get negative 1. Plug in 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I can plot these 3 points. Negative 1, 0. 0, negative 1 I already have, and 1, 0. So this would be my graph. Now, your solutions are where it hits the x-intercept. So I have a solution at negative 1, 0. And a point at 1, 0. So again, the solution to these graphs are just where does it hit the x-axis. Okay. Number 2, now, of course, I messed up a little bit. Number 2, our graph's going to go off the graph a little bit, but not too much. So here my a is going to be 1. My b is negative 6. And this time I don't have a c because there's no term without an x. So find your axis of symmetry, which was x equals negative b over 2a. So negative b, well, b was already negative 6. So negative 6 is positive 6 because a negative is a positive. 2 times a, which is 1. So we get 6 over 2, which is 3. So I'm looking at x equals 3 for my axis of symmetry. So we put a dotted line down there. To find your vertex, take whatever you got for your x just now, which was 3, plug it in. So 3 squared minus 6 times 3. 3 squared is 9. 6 times 3 is 18. 9 minus 18 is negative 9. So this is where it goes off the graph a little bit. So here's negative 6. So negative 7, negative 8, negative 9. So my vertex is at 3, negative 9. So 3, negative 9 is about right there. So I'm sorry that I made a bad graph. Your y-intercept, again, it's just your c value. So c was 0. So I'm looking at 0, 0. So 0, 0 right there. And just like before, since I know that anything over here is symmetric to anything on the right, I can assume that my other point would be, let's see, this is 1, 2, 3 points over, so 1, 2, 3 right here. So we want everything to be symmetric. Make your graph. Oops, that's really bad, sorry. Alright, so again, the solutions are where does it hit the x-axis? So it hits the x-axis at 0, 0. and at 6, 0. Okay, moving down. For question 3, doing the same thing. This time my A is 1, my B is -4, and my C is 2. So start off with the axis of symmetry. So that's x equals -b over 2a. So negative b, well, b was -4, so -4 is +4. 2 times a, which is 1. So we get 4 over 2, which is just 2. So x equals 2 is my axis of symmetry. Find the vertex. So we use x equals 2 since that's what we just got. 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 2. So 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2. 4 minus 8 is -4. -4 plus 2 is -2. So my vertex is at 2, -2. So 2, -2, make a dot. Okay, now we're going to find our y-intercept, which is c. So c equals 2. So 0, 2 is our y-intercept. So again, because I know it needs to be symmetric, I know my other point would be there. And then connect everything. Now, where it hits the x-axis here, it isn't completely obvious. So if you wanted, you could just plug in like a t-chart and figure it out. But we can estimate that it's going to hit the x-axis about here and here. So we could say it's 1, 0, and 3, 0. So it's not just these two new points we made, it's where does it hit the x-axis. We're actually not going to do number 4 because my graph was way off on that one. There's no way it was going to fit. So, of course, I made a mistake, and I'm sorry for that. Okay, number 5, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. So here, start off with axis of symmetry. Oops, oh well. X equals -b over, oh my goodness, that's silly. -b over 2a. So we get -b is -2 over 2 times 1. So -2 over 2 is -1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals -1. So dotted line going down here. And then I'm going to find the vertex. So I'm going to plug in x equals -1. So I got -1 squared plus 2 times -1 plus 3. -1 squared is just 1. 2 times -1 is -2, then plus 3. 1 minus 2 is -1. -1 plus 3 is 2. So my vertex is at -1, 2. So -1, 2. And then my y-intercept, c equals 3, so it's going to be at 0, 3. So 0, 3 is right there. So I can assume my other dot's right here. Okay, so this time, there's no way that my graph isn't going to ever hit the x-axis because it's going up away from the x-axis. It's not going down. So anytime that happens, it's going to be no solutions. Also, a way to tell if your graph is going to go up or down, which we've only looked at ones that went up, is look at your x squared. If that were a negative x squared, your graph would have been going down like this. So an upside down U. Number 6, the thing that's wrong with, well, first of all, I'm going to change the 16 to a 4, otherwise it won't fit the graph. But the thing that's wrong with this is we always need 0 on the right side. So I'm going to move that over. So x squared minus 4 equals 0. So we talked about that before with factoring. Always make sure that you have a 0 on the right side. So with this, my a is 1, b is 0 because there's no just plain x value, c is -4. So x equals -b over 2a. X would be, well, -0, so 0 over 2 times 1. That's 0 over 2, which is 0. So I have axis of symmetry going down, x equals 0. Your vertex would be when x is 0, since that's what we just got. So 0 squared, and I'm going to use this equation I came up with right here. X squared minus 4. Well, 0 squared minus 4 is negative 4. So vertex is at 0, negative 4. So make a dot. And then I'm going to find my y-intercept. Well, C was negative 4, so 0, negative 4. That doesn't help me at all because I already have a dot there because it's already on my y-axis. So here, I'll make another t-chart. So again, if you wanted to make a t-chart in the first place, that's fine. This time, just because I know how it's going to work, I'm going to pick negative 1, 0, 1. Actually, scratch that. Sorry. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And I'm just doing that because I know ahead of time what it's going to look like. So if you want to just start with these 5 points all the time, go ahead. So if I plug in negative 2 squared, that's 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. Plug in negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Plug in 0. 0 squared minus 4 is negative 4. Plug in 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Plug in 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So we got negative 2, 0. Negative 1, negative 3. 0, negative 4 already have 1, negative 3, and 2, 0. It's going to look like that. And again, your solution is, where does it hit the x-axis? It hits the x-axis at negative 2, 0 and at 2, 0. Okay. So please let me know if you have any questions. We will be talking about this topic and the topic from the previous videos on Thursday and Friday. So don't fret if you're confused. We'll talk about it in class as well.